Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back from your lunch. So we're just going to start off the afternoon by announcing the winner of our little lunchtime challenge. So we got in several photographs of people that had gone out and about, and so the lucky winner is going to receive the voucher. So there are the pictures that we received in. And with absolutely no scientific reasoning behind it at all, we have decided to pick the picture. There it is, Heather Clapworthy. So Heather, you are the recipient of the £25 Cotswold voucher. Thank you very much for those who participated in the competition. That's a bit of fun. Okay, so the running order then this afternoon is, so we have 3 presentations, and then we're going to follow that just by a short question and answer time. So we've got a presentation from Mid-Ulster from Anne and Roisin on the Dark Skies Observatory at Dava Forest, followed by Sheena Dixon from Tourism A&I, talking about a view to greatness. I'm looking forward to see what's behind that title. And then we've got Stevie Miller, one of the mountain rangers from Mourne Heritage Trust, coming to speak to us about a new project that's been happening down in the Mournes. So I think if we're ready, we'll just go straight into a first presentation, which is Anne and Roisin. So I'm just going to hand straight over to both of them.
Well, thank you everyone for having Roisin and myself talk to you today about Dark Sky Park and Observatory at Dava Forest. Delighted to be able to join you. I'm going to start by sort of putting it in context and really positioning where the Dark Sky Park and Observatory is. So in case some people aren't familiar, we're sort of between Londonderry, Derry and Belfast, outside Cookstown, and really not too far from Omagh. And this, if anyone can everyone can see that, is what there already is in the forest and what is Dava. So Dava is a Forest Service owned site. It's approximately 1,000 hectares. It's owned by, site is owned by Forest Service NI, and historically, and by that I mean before there was any investment by council in the site, there would have been walking trails through existing forest roads. There would have been unofficial mountain bike trails, and with that it would have attracted a little bit of antisocial behaviour. There was always a desire within Cookstown Council that the Dava had more potential and had more to offer. And it was during a fact-finding visit to Scotland, probably about 2010, by the then Cookstown District Council, looking at mountain bike and trails there. They stumbled across a Dark Sky Park and really felt that maybe this is something that Dava has to offer as well. That then led to suppose, the product as it is now, and in 2011 the Cookstown Legacy Council entered into a licence agreement with Forest Service NI to take over the recreational licence of the forest. In 2013 we opened our first official mountain biking tracks, and it was really from then that we started to explore this idea of a Dark Sky Park and what that meant. The site hosts just over 26 kilometres of blue, red and green mountain bike trails, and makes up one of the 3 national trail centres in Northern Ireland. But it's this idea of a dark sky, and it's really what that is and what that means. So dark skies are becoming a scarce resource really, as night lighting and atmospheric pollution increases. It's scary to think that actually 80% of the world's population lives under light polluted skies, and it's probably not something we ever think about. This is a satellite image showing light pollution across Europe, and the red indicates areas with extreme light pollution. And as we zoom into Ireland, again you can see where there is little or no light pollution. And as we can zoom in closer, you can really see where Dava sits is shown there with the red circle. But what's unique about Dava is it is relatively close to major towns and cities. As I said earlier, it sort of lies between Belfast, Derry, Londonderry, but it has so little light. And that's really to do with the topography of the landscape. So Dava in Gaelic means like a cauldron or like a deep vat. There's very much a natural depression in the land, and the land is surrounded by forest. It's restricted to housing due to the bog land that's there, and that's all contributes to making it a naturally dark site. And it's really since 2013 that the darkness of the sky has been measured at Dava, and we've measured those using, as we call them, SQMs, or sky quality meters, and that's what we've used to measure the darkness of the skies and record that data. If you look at this sort of takes you through the transitional stages of what a dark sky might look like, and you can all pick your own place within that as to what you see when you look up at the sky, where you folks are. But it shows you the difference into what we think we can see, and then actually what you can see when you're in an excellent dark sky site. I mean, I live rurally and I always thought I had stars, but it wasn't until I went to Dava that I realised actually I didn't have very many. So that very much took us on a journey, and it's that journey of linking the old with the new. So we focused on the ORNI Dark Sky Park and Observatory, which is our new product, but we can't forget what was there before. These are the Begmore stone circles, and these were first discovered in the 1930s by a farmer when he was cutting turf. Archaeologists excavated the site and they revealed a cluster of ancient stone monuments. The bog had grown over the stones over the decades, which had formed, and the stone circles were probably formed thousands of years ago. We don't really know what these are exactly. However, it is widely thought that these were to do with the cycle of the seasons, because ancient Bronze Age farmers relied on the cycle of the seasons when they needed to know when to sow their crops, and that very much ties into the annual cycle of the earth seasons, which is matched to the motion of the sun, the moon and the stars. Now, this is what is being excavated to date, and it is highly likely that there are more of these in the surrounding boglands. And that just shows you a picture of the site from above. I say, so this is very much what everyone reckons to be is one of the first observatories and the first markings of the cycle. The idea then to link one of the first observatories to what we have now, we had to be very mindful of the natural site. And you can just see in the background of this slide how the observatory sits within the existing landscape of it. The river here, which you see in the foreground, is the Owen River, and it's an ASSI, so an area of special scientific interest, and it rises in Dava. It's of particular importance for the freshwater pearl mussel, and it supports the largest known population of this rare shellfish in Northern Ireland. The site is also home to salmon, brown trout in the river, and then there'd be obviously a network of wildlife. You have otters, dibbers, kingfishers that will be present along the length of the river. So it really just shows Dava and the natural range of diversity that is on the site. So why did we decide to get where we are now? And why is it called is something that Roisin and myself get asked a lot. And I'm going to show a short video here now, which will hopefully explain it much better than I can. But it very much started with being the sound of the universe. And hopefully this will play okay. It's like all technology feels good. took on a journey to get a brand name, O being the circle of the telescope of the big more stone circles, the M representing the landscape and the mountains within the Sperrins. So what is an international dark sky park? So after several years of recording the darkness of the skies, and after 2 years of completing a rigorous international dark sky park application process, Dark Sky Park was awarded the IDA accreditation in March 2020, and this was just before it was due to officially open in April 2020. Protecting the dark sky was very much a journey, which wasn't just about something for astronomers. It was also the benefits of that to the flora and to the fauna of the region, and for the well-being of human health and well-being is well documented. So for us, it was very much a process, not something that the council was very much taken on their own, but something that we had to engage the whole community in. And bring them along on the journey with us, and stress the importance of their site, and the importance of their site within Northern Ireland, being the first dark sky park in Northern Ireland, and their place in an international world of dark sky parks. The purpose of achieving the IDA designation, as I said, brings wider recognition to the park and acknowledge the efforts that have been made to protect the dark skies. And as part of that, we help to raise the awareness of the importance of preserving the dark sky. What can you see at Dava? Well, you can clearly see the Milky Way from with the naked eye, and this photo was taken by Christopher Mackay. And you can see that's at the big more stone circles. And using a telescope, you can view images such as the Orion Nebula, and this photo was taken by Adam Jeffers, and these photos are both taken in the Dark Sky Park. I'm going to pass on to Roisin, who's going to tell you a wee bit more.
Hello everyone, I just want to reiterate what Anne said. I'm really happy to be here and just speak on Dark Sky Park and Observatory. So as you can see, this is the building. It surrounds in beautifully, in my opinion, and I'm sure many others, with the surrounding area. It was very important that it wasn't going to be obtrusive to the area. So again, it blends in really well, and it's a beautiful building that has actually been nominated for a number of architectural awards. As you can see, you can kind of make out here little pieces of the light. They're red lighting, which is important obviously for ourselves as we want to limit light pollution. Actually, we do guided tours in the building, and that's one of the big topics that we discuss. We promote the fact that we want to limit light pollution so that we can all enjoy our own dark skies. As you can see here on this slide, that is the observatory. So the roof opens upstairs. It's not like the typical dome shape. It's again, everything's unobtrusive to the actual area. So the roof opens upstairs, and this is the 14-inch Meade telescope that we offer. We also have other various telescopes, solar telescopes and night watchers downstairs that customers can view throughout the guided tour. The guided tour itself would discuss, again, touching on what Anne has already spoke about, the links with the Backmore Stone Circle. So it's like the ancient to the modern, as we're the modern observatory. It would also discuss the IDA accreditation that we yearly put through reports for it in order to keep. Because obviously we're very, very proud of it, and it's such an important factor to the building. We also then discuss the solar system and the constellations in the sky at nighttime. So essentially we equip customers with the tools that they can go home as well and enjoy their own night skies. As you can see here, this is a few people outside with telescopes. We will be offering like observing sessions. So again, promoting the beautiful surrounding area and the night skies is so essential for everyone to really know, and it's so important to us at ON. We have basically an Odyssey film experience. So that's the blinds down, and on the side of the building we have seated stone walls. As you can see here, the folks are sitting on it. You will put your headphones on, and there's 2 films that we offer. The first one is linking the local heritage, so the stone circles, Ramsbury House. It also shows the animals that live within the forest, which again Anna's touched base on. It would show the Sika deer and the various frogs. It's actually a really fantastic experience, and I would advise any of you to come and see it. And we'll be starting it again in October, because obviously it's so bright now in the evenings that you won't get the full experience until it's dark enough. The second one then obviously touches base on the solar system, so it's just a real interactive experience for customers, and again promoting what's so important, the outside beautiful area and also the dark sky. As you can see here, this is saying on solar search, so this is actually an app that we have developed. The solar walk links Dava to the stone circles, Dava being the sun and the stone circles being Neptune. So along the way, there's various pillars that customers and visitors can scan the codes and get a little information on each planet along the way. And as I said, with Dava being the sun and the stone circles being Neptune, it's guided along to show visitors roughly how far apart the planets actually are. So it's again a really interactive experience. And as I said, it's about 3.4 kilometer walk. And as you can see here, it's a boarded walk with various information boards throughout, which again promote the local history, and visitors can really take in the beautiful scenery that is around Dava. So it's a wonderful experience. And again, I would advise any of you to come out and please interact with it. This is one of the packages that we offer, again, the stars and stones. So that will be the stones at Bathmore, how we link the ancient to the modern, and the stars then being our modern observatory. So really it's guided tour at the Bathmore stone circles, the exhibition tour within our building, and it's really linking the two and showing how important one is for the other. Again, so important that we can show folks what is in the night sky and the beautiful scenery, again linking back to the recreational aspect. Then finally, this is actually the giant that's being developed currently. It's at the car park. As soon as you come into Dava, there's a metal frame at the moment, and we're just waiting for the rest of it to be built. But this is Celeste the Stargazer. This has been, we've worked along with Tourism NI, and this is linking 3 council areas actually, Derry and Strabane, Crana, and Fermanagh and Omagh Council, Mullacarn, and then obviously Mid-Ulster, Dava Forest. 3 giants are throughout the Spurns, and it really promotes the giants of the Spurn Sculpture Trail. And obviously I know Sheena will probably, well, I'm assuming Sheena might be speaking about this, but it's just to touch base with that. And again, it's another attraction to Dava, and again links in with the stargazers and the dark sky, and just encourages people to get out into their local forests and their local areas to see what they can experience. The next slide I'm going to show you is a bit of a video, and again, hopefully it plays okay. So,
welcome to Northern Ireland's first dark sky park.
basically just want to say that also we have just recently had an event linking the stars and stones just on Saturday past, and we will now have a how to use your telescope on Sunday coming. So we're currently working on events and workshops, so that's exciting for us as well. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and yeah. Bye.
Anne and Roisin, thank you very much. It was worth the wait. It's such a lovely project. For somebody who's been going to Dava for years, it's just been amazing to see the transformation in that forest. And for me, it's lovely to see the combination of the tourism and the outdoor recreation fitting in so well together, and being able to link the Bearmore Stone Circles through a walk right back into the forest is just, it's brilliant. So well done to everybody at Mid-Ulster for getting that project to where it is today. And I've questions, but we're going to save them until after the 3 presentations. So thanks again. Okay, next up we have Sheena Dixon from Tourism Northern Ireland. So Sheena is going to give a presentation, A View to Greatness, Embracing the Giant Spirit of Our Outdoors. So I'll just hand straight over to Sheena.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sheena Dixon, and I am the Outdoor Experience Development Officer at Tourism Northern Ireland. And really, I'm truly delighted to be with you here today to introduce you to some of the things that we're currently undertaking to develop the outdoor tourism product in Northern Ireland. So before we start on that, I just thought I'd take us back to give us a little bit of context. And I think, you know, it's been mentioned a few times here today, but obviously the past few years have been relatively tumultuous and really continue to be tumultuous, especially for the tourism industry. We can't ignore the ongoing global uncertainty around coronavirus, but also with the ongoing emerging events in Ukraine and elsewhere as well. And that really has a knock-on effect on our international tourism. But as I was saying, and I'll talk to you a little bit in the presentation, we very much have flexed our offer in tourism in Northern Ireland to accommodate for that. So we're really working at the minute towards reviving our industry and building on the domestic and closer to home growth in the short term, and then the medium to long term, building back to welcoming more of those international visitors that we've enjoyed over the past number of years. So as I said, following the pandemic, we're very much in that period of recovery and growth. And we very much see it as Tourism NI's responsibility to ensure that we have a really strategic growth strategy to respond to those changing tides within the industry and visitor needs as a response to that. So through the Tourism Recovery Action Plan, which was launched by Minister Dodds a couple of years ago now, there really was a strategic approach to building back better and knowing exactly what it was that we had to do to build back better. During the pandemic, we had a number of measures in place to aid recovery and to really encourage that continued growth of the sector, including, you know, capital and revenue funding programs, industry development programs. However, we've sort of got through that initial response period, and now we see that there's very much time to get into that building back better phase. So if we're looking at why would you sort of look towards tourism as a growth area for not just the outdoors, but in general for Northern Ireland, and one of the benefits of being a part of that tourism story? And we see that really the tourism benefits we can see that tourism can really perform as an economic driver. It can stimulate local communities, especially within the outdoors in those rural communities. And pre-pandemic, we really saw the benefit of that. You know, since 2013, tourism had grown by, I think, around 46% to achieve, realistically, in Northern Ireland terms, an unprecedented, sorry, I know that word's been used too much over the past couple of years, but it is unprecedented, an unprecedented £1 billion in revenue. And that was in 2019, just before, obviously, the world changed a bit. And of that sort of high figure, the 1 billion figure, 731 million of that was export earnings, which is important for bringing more money into the economy rather than just circulating it as well. So the tourism, travel and hospitality sectors also, you know, employed around 70,000 people in 2019 as well, and had created around 12,000 new jobs as well to really show how tourism can benefit that. the jobs were created really, and I think again it's important to note, especially in the context of the outdoors, that the jobs were created in every part of Northern Ireland, and not just in those sort of big conurbations that we've seen from other sectors. That tourism really has the potential to disperse visitors, it has the potential to grow our rural communities, and it has the potential to instill that pride in our rural communities as well. So over and above the sort of central and economic and social well-being drives, you can really see that there, as I said, that pride of place really stands very, very clearly, but also it does support the promotion of our unique culture and heritage and natural environment too. So in terms of where we are now, so we have 5 key strategic pillars of our new brand, and I'll take you through that new brand a little bit later. But our 5 key strategic pillars that we are working towards internally at Northern Ireland, and I think in Tourism Northern Ireland, and I think it's important to cover this just to show the precedent that has been put on outdoors as we speak. So the 5 key strategic pillars that we're working from, so legendary. So legendary really covers off the fact that we have sort of a really rich heritage. You know, our story of Northern Ireland really engages locals and visitors who want to hear, see and participate more, and really develop their own personal history whenever they come here. Then we have our elemental. Now elemental is the one that we're probably more concerned with today. So that really represents sort of the, you know, our rugged landscapes, our wild seas, the greenways, blueways and natural resources, and everything to do with our land. And one key lesson from the COVID pandemic, as we've heard today and as we've heard ongoing through the pandemic, is that there really has been a greater appreciation of our environment, and tourism bodies across the globe are truly reevaluating the importance of the environment and the roles and responsibilities in caring for the global ecosystem that tourism has within that environment also. The giant spirit that we see in the next pillar really has, it's more to do with our thriving cultural, arts and literary and music scenes, and it really shows that tourism also provides an important source of income, which helps protect and sustain our culture for the benefit of those local communities that are involved in those cultural activities. Then we have the industry and pioneering, and that's really all about our architecture, our ambition, those tourism-focused businesses, large or small. There's an ecosystem of interdependencies and supply chains within that can really reach into every walk of life and livelihood in Northern Ireland. And then we have our community, our big-hearted spirit. And that's really all about our hospitality, our generosity and our natural warm welcome. And you know, we know that tourism is a labour intensive and people centric industry with 7 out of 10 jobs outside of Belfast, and tourism really does drive and give back to those local communities and ensures the livelihoods and regenerates those local micro economies. So if you can see there where we're actually pinning outdoors within those 5 strategic pillars, you can see that outdoors really is truly a critical piece of the Embrace a Giant Spirit puzzle. So in terms of the consumer trends that we're seeing, we are seeing that consumer behaviour, you know, we know it's permanently changing, but we are seeing an ever increasing focus on health, both mental and physical. We're seeing a rise in conscious consumption. So people are more aware of what they're buying, the sustainable impacts and the cost, and as well as a focus really truly on local produce, local product, local impacts and connection to the people. And of course this impacts on the sort of experience, both domestic and international, that travellers will really want when visiting Northern Ireland. So those health and safety, outdoor experiences, getting back to nature, hidden gems, all really speak to the outdoor offer and what it is the outdoor offer can give to visitors. We're also seeing that sustainability messaging, and again that's both the environmental and economic sustainability coming out really clearly in what our visitors are asking for and what our tour operators are asking for at the minute. And we're finding that our industry are doing it to a certain degree, that they are creating sustainable experiences or they are acting in a sustainable way, but they're not very good at shouting about it and they're not very good at telling that story. So it's up to us over the next sort of couple of years to work out how we tell that story better. How do we ensure that we're not greenwashing, that we're living by that sustainability messaging as well, and that we're really coming out as a really strong leader within the sustainability and ecotourism space, and that's one of our sort of key aims over the next while. So in terms of what we're doing with Embrace a Giant Spirit, I think that, well, I hope that everybody on the call today has heard of Embrace a Giant Spirit. It's literally plastered over every billboard that you see across Northern Ireland. But to take us back to 2019 and just to explain to you where we are with it, or where we've come with it, we really knew that we needed an experienced brand to compete with the other Island of Ireland brands. You know, Fulsh Ireland had come out with these absolutely amazing brands with Wild Atlantic Way, Ireland's Ancient East, and the Hidden Heartlands and Dublin. And sort of our 6 wee wet counties in the northeast hadn't really anything to hang their hat off. So we knew we needed a brand to stand out in the international market and really communicate that Northern Ireland is a must-see destination. And we tested multiple giant propositions with 3,000 participants across our target markets. And this Northern Ireland Embrace a Giant Spirit really stood out as the most popular, warm, compelling and welcoming. But we know that to animate this, we need to deliver compelling and meaningful experiences that attract and delight travellers. So we launched this brand at World Travel Market in 2019, and then of course November 2019, and then of course within 4 months, by March 2020, the world had fallen apart, and especially within the tourism context, the world had sort of fallen, or the rug had been swept from under our feet, and we knew that we had to then. We knew we had to flex our offer and look at how we were selling ourselves, and the outdoors really came to the fore through that. You saw through the pandemic that obviously not every element of the tourism industry could open up at the same time, but the outdoors was one of the ones that really could sort of start to build back at the earliest point, and the outdoors really started to become synonymous with our offering, and where Titanic had usually been sort of and sort of those bigger propositions had been sort of the sexier tourism propositions in Northern Ireland, we were now seeing outdoors really fill in that gap, and our visitors very much requesting and wanting the outdoors to fill that gap. So really our goals as a result of that, 2019 pre-pandemic, our goals now are not the same as the goals for the future, and we've really had to adjust. That recovery action plan speaks to that, and we are trying to build back better. But we understand that now tourism really can't go it alone for the economy, and we really have to integrate with all of the other social and environmental policies that are going to be crucial for the economy and for Northern Ireland in general in the long term. So we have had some, immediate priorities as a result. So we are, we were supporting economically viable tourism industry and trying to save jobs initially, and looking at that NI and Republic of Ireland markets, and looking at how we can use digital tools more widely and everything else. But now we see that we have to build back better, as I said. So where do we stand on that? I'm just going to skip this slide. That there was just a quick example of one of our outdoor billboards that we had over the summer that really spoke to the outdoor focused visitor. But in terms of how we move forward, it's important to remember that travel very much will return, and that the brand is very much well placed to take Northern Ireland forward. And responding to visitor need and to those key emerging trends that we saw earlier, TNI wish really to engage and excite those that manage and interact with our natural heritage, land and seascapes to develop new and innovative approaches to animating and interpreting this asset in a manner that delivers new experiences that can really contribute to the economic well-being, the visitor experience, and can really help to tell the story of our destination. So, Tourism and I, at the minute, we are investing in this area, both in terms of expanding the team to meet the needs of the industry, and planning for capital funding programmes, fingers crossed, budget permitting. But this piece of work that we're introducing you, or that I am introducing you to today, really is timely following COVID and changing perceptions to the outdoors. So we want to make sure that we are looking very carefully and strategically as to, how do we make sure that the outdoors is contributing to this recovery, and how can we make sure that we are developing the outdoors in a sustainable and responsible way, which really suits the needs of the visitor and for the industry alike. So in terms of the outdoor industry, COVID hasn't had many silver linings, but one of them definitely has been the shift in focus of our visitors to considering the outdoors a key motivator to visit a destination, but we know we need more and better and enhanced visitor experiences to support that demand and to animate the landscapes, and that everything is done in a very much sustainable way. You know, we don't want to overcrowd. But the outdoors, in addition, you know, it's an industry that is absolutely driven by passion. You know, we can see that very clearly from all of our the providers that we work with. And one of the key areas of development is how we work with our key potential providers and harness that passion for their place and their activity, but also to build in their business skills and professionalism, and to build in their opportunities, you know, their routes to market and the quality of their offer, and create a tourism infrastructure that can help to facilitate them to achieve their potential. So in order to do that, we are working on this piece of work. We've called it on Unlocking the Outdoors Framework. And, you know, we know that it's the Northern Ireland tourism industry that creates the experiences that are going to really animate this brand. They're going to create the memories and the collateral for every tourist visitor. And it's essential that the correct environment, support and enthusiasm is mobilised to enable tourism businesses to really succeed, you know, strengthen their offer and to prosper. So to answer this ask, Tourism NI, as I said, are working to develop a distinctive, compelling and relevant framework to unlock the potential of outdoor tourism in Northern Ireland. You know, this is going to be informed by consumer needs, by business opportunity, and it's really going to be one that delivers on Embrace the Giant Spirit brand promise. And we're hoping that it's going to be endorsed and supported by relevant stakeholders. We're currently working with experts to consult with all the key stakeholders to share and have a voice in this process. And we want to ensure that it really is a piece of work that has outcomes to support all of those involved in the outdoor tourism industry and associated communities. And we, you know, that stakeholder engagement is really for us to hear and understand the opportunities, whilst at the same time recognising that there are really distinct challenges and barriers. But together we aim to create a realistic but shared plan and agenda for the future. So from our initial consultation, it's no huge surprise that there is a real desire to unlock Northern Ireland's natural assets and to attract and motivate visitors to spend time exploring and enjoying the destination and contributing to the economy and host communities. And we know we need to create and hone world-class distinctive visitor experiences, and I'll come on to that in a second. I know I'm a wee bit over time, and and also responsibly animate some of our key assets. And you know, we feel that we have a real opportunity to harness those skills and knowledge and consumer brand led experience development to support product design, development and implementation. So in terms of what that looks like, at the minute we're in that sort of discovery and research phase, looking at the consumer and market trends, having those stakeholder consultations, and we've had a couple of workshops as well to sort of get some of those or get some of that feedback from the industry and from our stakeholders. Then in going into the next financial year, we're looking at developing that framework, and that should take us up to June. And hopefully we are going to have that high level framework that's going to have that clear vision, and it's going to have a clear action plan for us as well to work through. In terms of experience development, so this is something that we are also working on in addition to the Unlocking the Outdoors framework. We're continuing to really build those market-led visitor experiences, and since launching Embrace the Giant Spirit, we've developed an experience development process which works with a dedicated team internally at TNI, as well as a whole suite of experts to really work with the industry to ensure that they're truly market ready. And this includes a vigorous process to ensure that businesses are aligned to the Embrace the Giant Spirit brand and providing additional supports which are really tailored to their needs. And you know, this may include anything from mentoring work, cluster groups, workshops, photography, videography, thematic toolkits, but it's all based on industry need and aims to really develop and enhance the quality of their experience based on visitor expectations. But we are constantly learning from the industry and constantly developing a process to build something that is fit for purpose for the industry, to make sure we're offering the best quality of visitor experience for our target audiences. So I just wanted to share with you, you know, what we mean by those visitor experiences. So really it's something you can't do elsewhere. So what's the area's point of differentiation? What can you do that is authentic to the destination? How can you tell the story of Northern Ireland, or what stories and folklore exist that you can create a compelling experience around? Or what we're looking for experiences that are really rooted in the promise of immersion in the wild and pristine landscapes of Northern Ireland? Or are there opportunities to unplug, unwind, get away from the house and hectic modern lifestyle, or maybe to get onto the water? And something that's really good for the mind, body and soul, with maybe a wee pub stop along the way, because people do want the crack, they want the local experience and they want the challenge of really rediscovering themselves. So apologies I don't have a better picture for this one, but I just wanted to share with you one of the partnerships that we've currently been working on, and this is with HED Waterways Ireland and Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and we've been working with them on Devonish Island. Now, Devonish Island is notoriously a hard site to animate. It's a hard nut to crack, but it's something that's really iconic to Northern Ireland. And we've been working, as I said, with this partnership, HED Waterways Ireland, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, as a pilot to look at some of our historical sites and our rural historical sites to see how we can best animate it. And we've got experiences that are starting up this year. One of the experience, Blue Green Yonder, it's a dawn yoga experience on the island. So you'll get a boat to the island, you'll do your dawn yoga, and then you'll get a little bit of food afterwards. And that's looking really very much at that visitor dispersal. So the visitors aren't going at the same time as the crowds will be going. It's at off-peak times. They're going to be using a different part of the island as well. And it's really sympathetic to not just the environment, but also the story that the site has to tell as well, and the feeling of peacefulness on the site. So it's something that really fits and tries to tell that story. Another example of an experience would be Glide with the Tide. So this, which started off as a simple sea kayaking experience down at White Rock in Strangford, has now turned into a sea kayaking experience where you're going around Sketchrock Island, you're learning the stories, you're learning the history. And John Hubbicks, who we then found out whenever we first initially went out with him, was a trained chef, is now taking you foraging for scallops on the way, and you pull up your kayak at the side of a little old castle, and he's going to cook up the scallops, or sorry, not the scallops, the mussels that you have foraged for, and he's going to cook them up in a Bushmills whiskey cream sauce, and that just adds to the experience. So I think that what we are looking for is experiences, as I said, that really tell the story of Northern Ireland and help to really bring that brand to life. So that's me in a nutshell.
Sheena, thank you very much.
No problem.
To think that outdoor recreation is now recognised alongside Titanic is just a major shift to hear in TNI thinking, and it's just great to see again the enthusiasm for activity tourism back in Northern Ireland. So we're just delighted to hear what you've had to say on that. That whiskey cream sauce with mussels canoeing, my goodness, if you haven't had your lunch, I'm starving. So great experiences, and we'll come back to you, Sheena, for some questions after Stevie's presentation. So final presentation is Stevie Miller. Stevie has probably got the best job in the world. He goes out into the Mourne Mountains every day, he goes for a walk and he talks to people. He just does what he loves, but I'm sure there's probably a lot more to it. So I'm going to hand over to Stevie and he's going to tell us all about the project that he's involved in. Thanks, Stevie.
No problem. Thanks very much, Carolyn. Yeah. I need to present my work like it's much more arduous than that. I've yet to find a way of explaining it that makes it sound much more arduous, but that's the nuts and bones of it. Folks, we'll be going through a couple of slides here, and I'll be asking Carrie very kindly to sort of skip to the next slide. So if you hear me saying that, it's not me talking to the voices in my head. Somebody is helping me along with the whole process here. So very quickly, just as an introduction, give you a bit of background. In October of 2021, Mourne Heritage Trust put together a pilot project of an engagement ranger within the area of outstanding natural beauty, specifically the High Mournes. This was backed in regards of funding by the Northern Ireland Environment Agency and Sport NI, and then feeding into that was a project board that was made up of Mountaineering Ireland, Ulster Federation of Rambling Clubs, National Trust and NI Water. And the whole idea of the engagement ranger was to promote environmental and socially responsible outdoor recreation. And that's quite a title in itself, but that was kind of the nub of it. It was looking at people who use the mountains for from a recreational perspective, and encouraging them or educating them about how they can participate in their chosen thing, and do it in such a way that it doesn't damage or it protects or enhances the environment that they're using. So it was as a response to a dramatic increase in numbers going into the Mournes mountain region or mountain area as a result of kind of COVID and the lockdown. Like some areas seen a doubling in numbers through pre-pandemic, and some areas even seen, fourfold. And this data was gathered with counters that are out in the mountains, seeing that numbers were going through, and those numbers have remained. So as a result of that, it was felt needed to be some form of a management strategy in terms of engaging with folk. Corridors were identified in terms of those numbers, the key pathways that people were accessing the mountains, and also 4 to 5 select issues were identified from a survey that was being done through Sport NI in terms of what people's knowledge was and where the lack or where the weakness was in terms of their understanding of going out into the mountains. Now, the term engagement, some of the feedback to let you be aware of, in the last 6 months myself, and if you look at the picture in front of us there, we have Ali Coyle, who's a female ranger to my right. That's unfortunately me in the middle, and then Aaron Caldwell, a younger ranger, on the left-hand side of the photo. So those are the three of us who are working on the hills on a regular basis. And one of the things that we've been lucky enough to do is to liaise, speak and meet with rangers from different parts of the UK and Ireland. And one of the things that's been said to us by all of them is that they're quite envious of our role, and so much that we are dealing with engagement before we deal with enforcement. And what came from them also was that they have been in a much more established role for quite a long time, but initially their role was that of enforcement. So they interacted with the members of the general public generally when they had found them doing something they didn't want them to do, or they were encroaching in the park or doing something that basically wasn't a positive outcome. And what they have found is that their role is now being encouraged to be one. But unfortunately, the general public don't want to speak to them because they associate them with being told off or being fined or being asked to stop what they're doing. So they have said to us if they could start again, if they could start fresh with a blank canvas, engagement in terms of education and information would be the way they would go first, and then they would move later on down the line to notions of enforcement or how do you actually make things stick. So that was a really good and interesting piece of information that came from other parks, other areas of outstanding beauty, and other people who were doing a similar role. Good things. The topic of this kind of talk was the view of a mountain ranger, and I was thinking about what I have witnessed over the last 6 months. The first thing, I feel cautiously optimistic about behaviour change within the people that I meet out in the hills on a regular basis, and their approach and their attitude and their ownership of the place. I'm seeing things that suggest to me that people are starting to feel that the Mournes is something that belongs to them, and changing their behaviour accordingly. So although many of these observations are anecdotal, things that we've seen is definitely a reduction in visual litter and waste in the mountains over the winter months. And one of the other issues that we were asked to address was the problems associated with dog ownership and pets not under control in the mountains. And we're slowly and surely seeing a change in behaviour in that, where more and more people we meet out in the mountains who have their dogs with them are keeping them on the lead all of the time, all times of the year, which is really what the landowners and the graziers had asked us to convey. Kerry, would you be happy enough to skip on to the next? Okay, so in a nutshell, we encourage that responsible, sustainable outdoor recreation. The idea is education rather than enforcement, and we've been working with clubs, governing bodies, landowners, and people out walking. Just on a day-to-day, out in the hills basis, face-to-face, we've engaged with just under 3,000 people between the three of us over 6 months. So that is direct contact with people out walking, either up on the summits or in the valleys, but throughout the Mournes area, which is, if you think what can be achieved in 6 months, you know, the sky's the limit if we're lucky enough to continue. If you go on to the next one, Kerry, please. So folks, the issues that arose or that were highlighted in relation to people going into the Mournes was a lack of navigational awareness. So what that means in a nutshell was that people didn't always know where they were. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know how to get there. So a real fundamental lack of understanding of the uses of a map. And so when we've stopped people, we've talked about that. We've run a series of morning kind of very introductory workshops, but that certainly our experience is that's what we're seeing out quite a lot. On a good day, people are following each other or going up well-walked tracks. But as we all know, within the mountains, the weather can change. I mean, this week is a classic example. On Monday, we were in shorts and t-shirts, and this Friday, they're talking about the possibility of snow on high ground. So we're trying to feed into that, and in line with one of our rangers, Ali, has done a couple of informative videos, really short videos on how to set maps, how to use maps. We talked about where maps are available. And then yesterday, in conjunction with Tullymore National Outdoor Centre, we're putting together a series of navigational short introductory videos so that anybody can watch and go, right, yeah, I can get my head around that. Issues around being appropriately dressed. I look like at that slide, inappropriate clothing makes me think, you know, is a dinner jacket wrong or a ball gown? But what it means is that most of us, or most folk going out in the mountains, are walking under the premise that as long as they keep moving, they'll stay warm. And what we're trying to introduce the idea is, well, what if you had to stop for whatever reason? What if you turned your ankle? You had a medical issue where you had to sit still, and educating people about how long does it actually take for things like the emergency services to come out and get to you. Is it possible to walk out? And what we've seen in the well-trodden routes is almost the same mentality that people would have if they were going to a park in an urban area. And we're trying to push that idea of have things with you that will be of use to you, hot drink, an extra spare layer, and in the winter months, a head torch and things like that. So that's an ongoing engagement role, information role, education role with both groups and general public. Issues around timekeeping, and what I mean by that is, you know, not that you get in trouble if you're late down, but in the winter months, accepting the fact that it does get dark earlier, and we do and have seen people heading out in the mountains quite late in the day, and been speaking to them about, you know, what their plans are. Are they being over optimistic, or are they being over ambitious? Is it really realistic to do all that they want to do and be back down before dark? I've already touched on the notion of dogs off leads and how we've addressed that issue, and in conjunction with the landowner and grazers, the message that we're putting out has tried to be as unambiguous as possible, and that message is keep your dog on leads at all times of the year. Issues around litter, we're definitely seeing a decrease in the amount of litter we're seeing on the hills. So people are becoming more aware of, you know, bringing it back down and disposing of it properly. And one of the things we're sort of starting to encroach in now is the notion of bringing out what is perceived to be biodegradable waste, which in most cases won't break down in the mountains. So we've been feeding that back through and sort of saying, look, folks, this is the reality of the situation. If you leave this, that, and the other up on the hill, it won't break down. A big help in that process has been that before I took this role on, I was involved with Leave No Trace, and in particular Leave No Trace Ireland, which is an environmental ethics message, and it was a really good tool and a really easy to remember and simple tool about things that you can do while you're engaging in your activity that minimises your effect on the place. So I would encourage folk to check out Leave No Trace Ireland at some stage if they get a chance. And the last issue that we were asked to address or look at was the notions of the effects of erosion on the hill, in particular erosion created by the footfall of people out walking. And another part of Mourne Heritage's role is the management of path construction. So we've been able to feed, as rangers who are out all the time, back to the path teams and say, you know, this is areas that we've identified as being in particular bad state, and feeding through where priorities should be in terms of funding and in terms of the constructions of paths. So Kerry, would you happy to skip on? So folks, the lack of navigational awareness, the ideas behind that came from stats that we gathered from Mountain Rescue. And I've talked about the notion of, you know, simplistic thing, just having a map and getting skilled up in relation to how to use it. People are illustrating that they're quite dependent on technology, the use of their phones, which works really well until the battery dies in the cold weather or it goes down, and then you're left to wonder where you are and where you're going. Next slide, please. Okay, talked on the litter idea, bringing that home. So these are just a recap of things that were already going on. Coming into the summer now, we've been engaging with the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and some really positive outcomes from that have been that traditionally, as part of a Duke of Edinburgh assessment, the groups would have had to present an element of risk assessment for their journey throughout the Mournes, which quite often involve wild camping. And we've been in contact with quite a few assessors and groups who are now going to do an environmental impact assessment as well as a risk assessment, so where the young people demonstrate their understanding of their impact on the environment and how they might reduce that. So that's a big positive, I think, from our side, that if we have these groups out doing wild camping in the Mournes or travelling through the Mournes, that they'll at least be conscious or taking steps to minimise their impact on the hills. So next slide, please. So we talked about erosion, sticking to durable surfaces, and the notion of walking on pre-laid tracks or tracks that are currently there or being surfaced in such a way as can cope with the footfall. And we're also in liaise with walking clubs and talking about size of groups and the numbers that they may take in particular routes. So folks, one of the wee things, just sort of tying down, I have a kind of an overview of what our achievements are to date in relation from October to January 2022. So giving a quick recap of what we've been able to achieve, the three of us. As I say, we've engaged with just under 3,000 in the main mountain access corridors. The good news is we have been universally well received by people. So I have been surprised and really lifted by the positive engagement that we had. Folk who are out in the mountains doing all manner of things are on the whole really pleased to see us out there. They think it's long overdue, and they understand now a little bit about what our role is, and they're willing to make contact, keep in contact, give us information of things they see and hear. We delivered, as I say, a series of introductory skills sessions for people, general public, who are interested in learning a wee bit more about map work. We've been in communications and had quite a few meetings with the landowners and people who have working on the land and have livestock out there, and we're actually involved with helping to assist livestock that were injured down from the hills and liaison and alongside with the landowners. So that was a great thing to be involved in, although it was an unfortunate circumstance that the grazers and the farmers who earn their livelihood got to know our faces and our names and understood a little bit about what we were doing and that we were there to help them with the process. And we've had articles within Belfast Telly and also BBC just highlighting what we're doing. So as much as it's a public relations, it's also kind of getting that message out there that we are here and this is what we're doing. So next slide, please. One of the things, folks, that we came to us, and it was more of an issue that came out from observation as opposed to it being highlighted, was pressures that were around parking and everything associated with that. So in conjunction with a local entrepreneur who's kind of taken on the role of a shuttle service, we will be promoting over the spring and summer season the notion of not taking your car into the moorns, at the very least carpooling, or at the very best using a shuttle service. So there will be a calendar going live fairly soon through Mourne Live of the route and where to place, and we will be trying to actively use that as much as possible. But what COVID did was it kind of gave us a bit of a get out for a while in terms of, oh, I need to take my car to this place. But what we're seeing on a regular basis is large pressure with vehicular traffic, friction between landowners and people who work in the hills and people who are there for the weekend. And my sense of things is that the sooner we kind of wean ourselves off personal and private transport, the better it will be for the area in general. So final slide. That could well be it. Okay, folks, the last thing is, if at any point you know someone who's interested in being part of the solution around the moorns, then the trick is to contact Mourne Heritage and can get involved with path work with the juniper propagation. So juniper in the moorns is a unique genetic strain. So the idea is to propagate that in the Mourne Heritage grounds and get it back out to the hills and all forms of path work. So that's me, folks. Hope that was useful to you, and I'll sign out now.
Thank you very much, Stephen. That was superb. It's just a really, really important project to be involved in, and it's amazing just to hear about already the success of the project in such a short space of time. So well done to you and Aaron and to Ali for all the work that you've done to date. So we're just going to bring together the speakers now for just some question time. So it would be great if some people could start to put up some questions in the chat panel, if you could. But while people are thinking of those questions, I already have a couple in my head. So maybe Stevie, I'll just start with you. First of all, you sort of questioned something as you went along there, and my question to you is what's the long-term commitment to the project? Is there a long-term commitment to your funding and the other rangers?
That's a good question. So the timeline as it stands at the minute is the application for match funding is at the end of this month, with an application going into the Environment Agency, and the councils have expressed interest. So my sense of things is that it's positive, and it looks that will continue at least for a year. But you know yourselves, in the world that we live in, until they have me back out in the hills, I can't say it for sure, but certainly it's been met with a very positive perspective from the chief funding body. So that's what I can say at this point.
Good. Okay, great, Stevie. And I see there's a question for yourself again up on the panel. So it says, regarding keeping your dog in a lead at all times, have you separately considered the areas where there are cattle grazing?
So one of the areas where there may be cattle grazed in the morns falls inside the parameters of the National Trust owned land, and they have a slightly separate message, in which case that if people are approached by livestock, large livestock, the idea is to take your animal off the lead. But in reality, in the high morns and where we're working and where we're seeing the majority of people, it is sheep. Sheep are primarily, and wildlife. I mean, one of the things that people don't consider is that from this time of year through till August, we have all the ground nesting birds coming in. So as well as the very obvious impact that people might see in regards to livestock and being chased or being injured by dogs off lead, most dogs by their nature will raise or force ground nesting birds away from their nesting sites. So the whole message of keep your dog on a lead at all times manages to, I think, to address both of those things.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Stevie. I don't see any questions coming in unless I'm missing. Let me just scroll down. No, but Sheena, I have a couple for you too in my head. So is there any particular priority given to any particular activities? Do you know which are your big activities you're going to focus on in terms of walking, cycling, water sports? Have you any idea about that yet?
No, I wouldn't say that there's a particular focus. The focus for our visitors is always on sort of walking as a main one, cycling as sort of an ancillary, but getting on water has become more and more popular as well with our visitors. In terms of the types of activities, it is always going to veer towards that soft adventure as well. Sort of your lighter touch activities. Visitors come and they don't necessarily always want to get too dirty or too wet, because they might be doing something else in the afternoon if they're doing an activity in the morning. So it just depends. I think what's coming out really strongly is that the ability to be able to tell a story through an activity. So it doesn't matter what the activity is. It's how that story is really animating that landscape or that part of the environment that they're working within, or that part of Northern Ireland. On top of that as well, we are currently as well undertaking a product audit across the whole of Northern Ireland. That looks at different what is happening in each area, what gaps there are in the market, what opportunities there may be as well. So that's really going to inform, I guess, our priorities for development whenever that comes through, in terms of filling some of those gaps on down the line. That's due to be finished, I'm hoping, summertime this year. And then we'll be able to sort of take our learnings from that and look at where our next development activity happens. And I imagine that funding, fingers crossed, because we're all in the same political landscape at the minute and budget landscape at the minute, with public sector, but fingers crossed there will be opportunities for development there as well.
I suppose that was going to be my next question, Sheena, was if there's people on the conference today from district councils who are thinking of developing tourism products related, say, to activity tourism, will there be capital funding coming down the line towards that?
I would love to have an answer for you today for everybody in the call, but we have had no budgets confirmed for next year. So in an ideal world, we would love to say yes, there will be. There has been for the past number of years capital funding and revenue funding as well for the development of experiences, which has included outdoor experiences, which I know vast majority of the councils have all developed. Well, in fact, all of the councils have developed experiences from that, and a lot of them have developed outdoor experiences from that too, and have been heavily involved with that. Our funding has actually gone through the councils for those funding pots, so it's been really great. However, it just depends on where our budget lands next year and what gets approved. And as I said, I would love the answer to that, Carolyn.
Yeah.
So Never
I'm
mind
sure
everybody
lots
else
of
on the
people. Okay, and I see questions just come in from meeting there. Outdoor recreation is cross-cutting against many departments and agencies. What's the opportunity for cooperation to drive the vision forward?
I think that that's part of the vision and part of the consultation process is to try and get a lot of these agencies together, because we all may have small pots of funding, but it's if we can look at those in the round and have sort of common goals for those too, then that's going to be helpful. I think that I'm hoping that this vision that we're developing through the outdoor framework will hopefully start to pull some of those together, and some of the conversations that we've been having certainly are looking down that direction as well. We all know that these things don't always happen overnight, though, as well. It may, take a little while to bed in, but I suppose this framework that we see it that we're developing, we see it sort of looking at sort of the next 5 to 10 years of outdoor tourism. So it is sort of a medium to long term project that hopefully will start to bridge some of these gaps that we've seen in the past number of years.
Okay, great. Well, we really do look forward, Sheena, to seeing what's going to come out of the framework for outdoor recreation. It's a very exciting time, I think. So thank you for that. Anne and Roisin, you presented a lovely, innovative project, which I'm ashamed to say I haven't been to see yet, the Dark Sky, but behind all of that beauty, I'm sure there were some challenges along the way. Are you happy to share any of those challenges to get to the end result that you can share with us that might help others on the conference learn or not make the same mistakes or have an easier life? Is there anything?
It was perfectly smooth, Carlin. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I mean, there were so many challenges, and I feel I've sort of jumped into it. I didn't even experience them all. I suppose on a personal level, for me, the biggest challenge was working out the sky and the stars. I mean, I'm passing trees.
Yeah.
So give me something tangible and I can deal with it. I can see it, I can work it, but up there it's just, it's still mind-boggling for me. I mean, it was very much a journey that we've gone on. We very much felt it was important to bring the community on that journey with us, and with that as landowners. And I mean, there's all sorts of obstacles and challenges, shall we say, that brings with us. But it was a communication thing. I mean, we did, I don't know, umpteen presentations to different community groups. We were accused of maybe not engaging with them enough, and we really, it was almost like a, every month or every couple of months having to go back and saying, like, this is how it is, this is now where we are. Things in councils and in government take a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know that maybe that was conveyed enough to the local community, that this is a journey. As I said, like, this journey really started in 2011, and it didn't officially open until June 2021. So that's 10 years, and I don't know that people maybe appreciate that, just how long that journey takes. And by the time you start collecting the dark sky data and building those relationships, and very much instilling into people the importance of where the dark sky park boundary might be and what that might mean to them. And can I leave on my kitchen light? Can I leave on my outdoor light when I go to bed? I have to turn that off. But it wasn't that you couldn't. It was just educating the local community that what that meant. But I don't know if I've missed anything, Roisin, or if there's anything you want to add.
I just want to touch base on the fact that obviously we were meant to open in March 2020, and I reiterate what everybody else has been saying along with the COVID, that we officially really didn't open until June 2021. So we're really open 8-9 months. So we're just really getting properly into the swing of it now. Hence why I had mentioned the event last week. We've had 1 or 2 events, a Christmas event, and we've had the event last week, and we're just launching workshops, because obviously then restrictions have been like anybody can say, like, has been limiting what we've been able to do. So I would say that, along with what Anne has been saying, obviously with the community, it's been a long process, and a bit like everybody else has been saying, again, COVID has left things even longer because people are in a panic to get out and about and want things done immediately, and that's just not really how it has been. So to be honest, I wanna say, like, I'm really pleased with how well the project has went, even through all those trials and tribulations. Like, to look where we're at now in March, and to think that this should have really been open 2 years at this stage, I think it's came along really well, and we're excited for what we're going to develop in the future. So yeah, it's kind of reiterating what everybody else has said, but there is obviously humps along the road as well. So yeah.
Great, and I suppose that was my next question. Is Dava Forest finished, or have you more plans? Is there another phase to it, or?
I suppose it's like every outdoor recreational product, it's probably never finished.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there whether, you know, not necessarily there's anything planned at the minute, but we're always striving to make it a site and a destination where people can come and enjoy, and that might mean, you know, minor things, or it might mean major things, but as I say, it's yeah, watch this space.
Delighted to hear it. Just one question, and I see there from Claire, Claire Morris. If you were to go back in time, what, if anything, would you have done differently in the development, or maybe you wouldn't have?
Probably not St Mary to Scotland to find a dark sky. No. I'm sure there's a lot of things we would have done differently. And probably one of them is more, if we could go back in time, maybe it's the timings of everything. But there's never a right time to do anything. You know, we've come this far, and we've engaged with the different community and the landowners, and I think we've a fantastic product. And as I say, we'll continue to build on that and see where it takes us.
I suppose I'll add to it and say that, well, it's not just myself, and I actually started working in October, so I really can't say, you know, answer that question, but I would like to acknowledge that it hasn't been just myself and Anne that have really been in the development. There's been a lot of persons involved in the community and within the council, so it would be fair to acknowledge all those people involved as well, and I'm sure they could give you maybe 1 or 2 pointers, but I suppose we're just happy to get to how far we have gotten, how happy we are, how well it's developed, and just excited to see what comes for the future, because there's so many options that you can have. And again, kind of, I suppose, to address what you were saying about anything coming in the future, we're so keen to hear, like, visitors and customers' engagements, what they would like to see, because at the end of the day, it's for the people of the public. So I'm more than happy to hear anybody's opinions on anything, because it's great to get feedback, and then it gets everybody's minds ticking over to see what else we can offer. So yeah, that's really how it is. But I'm just really pleased that, you know, finally in March 2022 we're up and running and getting into the swing of it. So I think that's just important to acknowledge as well.
Great. Well, thank you to everyone. You know, great project. Stevie's project in the Mourns is a super project, very innovative, I think, for Northern Ireland, and it seems to be working really well. Again, the work that you've done in Dava is tremendous, and Sheena, as I said, it's lovely to see just the importance of outdoor recreation within TNI, because I mean, it certainly is just moving up the agenda of the impact of outdoor recreation to all of government's policies and strategies is really coming to the fore, and it's great to see that. So thank you to all of you for your presentations. And so just over lunch, we received last minute a video from our Health Minister, Minister Swan. So just before we conclude today's conference, we're going to show you that video. I haven't seen it. I don't know what's on it, but I think when the Minister has taken the time to send something to us, we'll have a listen. And I see Elizabeth has it up on screen. So I'll just hand over to Elizabeth to get the video going.
Everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to address this virtual conference. Outdoor recreation provides a great opportunity for people to be active, to connect with nature and to be social. Through the obesity prevention strategy for Northern Ireland, A Fitter Future for All, we're seeking to promote greater participation in all forms of physical activity, not just through playing sports, but through walking and cycling. The current advice from the UK Chief Medical Officers is for adults to be physically active 150 minutes per week, and for children and young people to be physically active for 60 minutes per day to help them stay active and healthy. There's no doubt that physical activity plays a key role in improving population health and well-being. It helps in preventing and managing many health conditions. That includes coronary heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity and cancer. There's a clear link between physical inactivity and chronic disease and premature death. Therefore, everyone should try to take part in appropriate levels of physical activity. But also, importantly, being physically active can improve mental health and emotional well-being. It can therefore also support the aims of our mental health strategy, which seeks to improve the mental well-being of our population. In addition, taking the recommended amounts of physical activity has been shown to improve confidence and concentration, sleep, strength and health in general. So indeed, by supporting active travel, it can also help improve our environment and deal with the climate crisis that we're all facing. The research undertaken by Outdoor Recreation through People in the Outdoors Monitor for Northern Ireland shows that the key role that outdoor spaces and outdoor recreation plays. However, the report also highlights that improvement in outdoor recreation is not equal with participation, and access to green spaces decreases as deprivation increases. Addressing inequality such as this is a key focus for my department through our overarching public health strategy, Making Life Better. I believe that the work of Outdoor Recreation Northern Ireland can help us to deliver the outcomes set out in the draft programme for government. And by coming together across government departments and working with local councils, we have a real opportunity to support people to overcome barriers, to participate in more physical activity and outdoor recreation, and to improve their health and well-being. So I'd like to take the opportunity to wish you all well for the rest of the conference, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Despite the fact it came at the end of the conference, I think it was actually a really nice finish. Just it reiterated very much where we started the conference, just to to highlight the benefits that outdoor recreation brings, not only in terms of health and well-being, but also in tackling inequality, to growing and greening the economy, to protecting our environment, to increasing active travel and enhancing education and learning. So, and although the Minister's focus is obviously on health in that department, and that is one of the key benefits that outdoor recreation can bring. So it was really good to hear from the Minister, and we thank his department for sending that through to us to close today's conference. So just before we finish, we would really appreciate your feedback on all of our training and seminars and conferences we run. We like to get some feedback on it. So Kerry's put up a slide there, so use the link in the chat panel that's just been put up, or scan the QR code below. That's just a wee bit too much high tech for me. So there are two ways that you can give feedback on what you've heard today, and we really would appreciate that. As you know, some of you know we run quite a lot of training events, and we have another training event coming up soon, and I think there it is, 12th of April. 11:30, an online webinar on changing places on the outdoors. So there'll be a link sent to you post-event easing to allow you to register for that one too. And finally, I think we just want to say thank you for joining us today. We hope you have got something out of today. Please stay connected with us through all our various websites, Twitter, LinkedIn and YouTube channels. But just before I go, none of these things happen without a lot of work behind the scenes. And so Thank you to Elizabeth, my colleagues Elizabeth and the Kerry, who have put today's conference together. They have marketed it and they are doing all the IT behind the scenes, getting everything up and running. So a very big thank you to Elizabeth and Kerry in particular for delivering today's event. So we hope to see you all this time next year. I think I said this time last year we'd see you live this year. Maybe next year we'll see you live. But in the meantime, thank you for your support of ORNI, and I hope you've really got something out of today, and we'll see you all very soon. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.